Welcome to another podcast episode. This is number 3, and for this one, it's a little bit different. Not interviewing an over 40 YouTube success story. This one, we're going to Camtasia, and specifically TechSmith and Jason Valade. Jason Valade. I'm sorry, I was pronouncing his name incorrectly. Jason is here to talk about Camtasia. He's the senior training specialist and webinar host for TechSmith Camtasia. And so without further ado, let me introduce Jason. How you doing, Jason?
I'm doing great, Rob. How are you? Thanks so much for having me. And caveat, I am definitely in the over 40 crowd, so that counts as well.
Perfect. I'm great. Thank you very much. And thanks for agreeing to do this. And before I get too far into this, sorry for everybody and to you too, Jason, for having the incorrect graphic up for the intro. One of the reasons you should have like a checklist of things to go through when doing one of these lives. But I promised there would be some hiccups somewhere down the road. So that was one of them.
If there isn't one, then you're not doing it live. That's the way I always see it. I mean, there's lots of things that could go wrong. That's the tiniest little thing, and I wouldn't even consider it wrong. So no worries from my end.
Perfect. So, So how you doing? I've got some questions written down here. Again, thank you very much for agreeing to do this. Why don't we start by you just kind of introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about what you do at Camtasia, or do you say you work for Camtasia or you work for TechSmith? I guess we'll start there.
That's a great question. So I work for TechSmith. TechSmith is a software company based in East Lansing, Michigan. TechSmith is the maker of Snagit, Camtasia, Audiate, Screencast, and a plethora of other tools. I've been a part of TechSmith's world for, I would say, about 13 years now. I was a classroom educator beforehand, so I was always in some sort of teaching environment for elementary school, middle school age, technologists, stuff like that. My degree's in that, so I have a master's in educational technology, but I've been part of TechSmith since early 2011. That's a lie. 2012. My gosh, I can't even do math anymore, right? I've had some role at TechSmith associated with education ever since the beginning. For the better part of the last 5 years, I've either been an instructional designer, I am an accredited ATD master trainer, and been our webinar host for about 2.5 years officially as a senior training specialist. So it was a really good chance. If you've attended a webinar, you're going to be attending a webinar, you've watched any of the previous recordings, I was either the host, the presenter, or both. So get to be out there teaching people about how to use our software, when to use our software, best practices, and thought leadership stuff. So I'm happy to do this. I'm excited to be a part of this experience today.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Jason. That's great. So you've been with TechSmith for over 10 years. So 2012. When did Camtasia itself actually, when was it born?
Camtasia was born about 25 or 26 years ago. TechSmith itself is a little over 30 years old. The first product that came out was Snagit, and it was followed up by what was then called Camtasia Studio. So that name has been around for a while. When I started at TechSmith, we were getting ready to release Camtasia 8.1. So there's been many a release since then. For those people who have been with TechSmith and Camtasia for a long time, 8.1 was the first release where we introduced green screen removal or color removal, which was the precursor to what home green screening was. So that was the first big project I worked on way back in 2012. So that's kind of exciting. But yeah, Camtasia is a little over 25 years old. We are currently on version 2024, usually ties in with the year. And early in 2025, pretty early, but we'll be releasing another brand new version, 2025, coming out here shortly.
Cool. I'm looking forward to that. As most of the viewers here probably know, I'm a big user of Camtasia. I've been using it for many years. I wouldn't necessarily consider myself an expert. I've used it a lot, and I've learned a lot about it just by making tutorial videos about how to do things within Camtasia, and my YouTube journey kind of grew from there. But wow, so that's a long time, 25 years or so. Wow.
A lot of iterations, a lot of growth, a lot of learning. a lot of adjustments. It's all happened throughout that process. So, and I'm glad to hear part of it is just the creation experience is how you were doing your learning. The best part, I think, about how we approach teaching all of our products, Camtasia in particular, is we're not prescriptive in the way you need to do things. There's several different ways to do various aspects within the tool, and you find out the process that works best for you, or maybe you mix it up and do it one way for one sort of project and one way for another sort of project. There's lots of flexibility there. So I'm glad you found success, even by dabbling, because dabbling is an important part of learning.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's, yeah. I think it's something I don't even remember. Like, it's been so long. I think I want to say it's been over 10 years for me that I've been using Camtasia. It's interesting that you mentioned green screens. I've never owned a green screen. It's not something I've ever done, but you have in Camtasia now a background remover tool that you don't even need a green screen. Is that how long has that been around? And maybe you could talk about that a little bit and how that kind of replaced the need for green screen, or is there still a need for green screen?
Yes and yes. It's been in the product a little over a year now, I believe. It's to match up with the world we're in now, right? So if you're doing a lot of remote learning, remote teaching, remote meetings, stuff like that, tools like Zoom, like Google Meet, those have an automatic background remover. In fact, we're in Zoom right now for this live stream. We could do that with the tool built in as it is. The ability to do that in Camtasia is still fairly new, but it has its nuance, right? The best way to get a really good result from that still is in your lighting, because Camtasia is trying to do a little bit of AI magic where it's finding your outline and finding out pieces that it believes are the prominent part of your broadcast. And if you have really good lighting that really defines who the person is, it should have an easier time finding your background. Like for me, I'm in my home office where I've got a nice big window that's got natural light on me, but I also have an LED light. You can kind of see it sourced on my hand right there. So I'm very well lit. I wouldn't say I'm evenly lit because there's a little bit of shadow over here, but the background remover should do a really good job with this. But it'll also see things that it thinks are prominent, like my microphone is sitting here. It'll be thinking it's trying to grab that as well. So while it's not perfect, it's pretty good for people that are trying to remove that kind of context from their videos. And then you can do things like, corner rounding or cropping your screen or putting yourself in a pip circle. Lots of different ways to address the extra parts of your video when you're recording that way.
Okay, cool. It's interesting that it's only been around for a year. I feel like it's been around forever, but that'll tell you what part of Camtasia I used to use and what parts I never used. Again, I used to use it a lot for making tutorial videos, and I've been making videos for YouTube. I didn't really get hard back into it until, say, February of this year. And when I started to make all these different tutorial videos, background remover was one of them, and I started using it a lot myself. So if anybody has seen any of those videos that I've made where I kind of put myself in the lower corner without, it almost looks like I'm on the screen, on the Camtasia screen when I make those, it's the background remover tool that I use. So I love it. I think that's one of the great things about it. It's so easy.
It is easy. I don't know. And in contrast, which is interesting, I rarely use it. I'm more of a conversationalist, put people in real environments. Like, this is my real home office. This isn't staged. Yeah, I got a couple things on the wall and whatnot, but this is really where I do everything from home. So is the background a little messy? Maybe, but I'm okay with it. But I can also draw attention away from me as the talking head and go forward with like the content on the screen at a certain point. So it's always a balance between whether or not I want you to see my actual working environment versus the mystery that the background removal does provide.
Right. It's nice to have that as an option. I like what you said about kind of keeping things real in the background. Typically, I mean, I'm not removing my background now, and a lot of times I don't. If I'm just doing an authentic style talk to the camera and making a video that way, I don't remove it. It's only like you said, if I wanted to put myself in a circle mask or something down in the corner, and have like a solid color behind me, then I might use it. But it's not something I use all that much anymore. But I can certainly see the benefits to using it. So that's something that came within the last year or so. What else can you do with Camtasia? Like, what am I trying to ask here? What do you see as basically the strengths of Camtasia? So a lot of the people who watch my videos and who may be tuning in here are just getting going with YouTube and starting to make videos. There are probably some other people here also who are Camtasia power users. But what do you see as basically, what is Camtasia really good at? What would someone who's just starting making videos, what would you tell them about Camtasia that, maybe they should consider that?
Yeah, it always comes down to ease of use. That's the first thing I always talk about is we're a really powerful video editing tool that's really easy to use. We also have the ability to record your screen. So people that are doing online teaching or demonstration videos or walking through workflows, Camtasia is really designed for that sort of workflow. You can do video editing where you're bringing in content from external sources, like if you record it on a camera, record it on a mobile device, and you want to bring those things in. If you want to combine those with motion graphics and you want to combine that with footage from a service, like we have our asset service. So if you want like a flyover of the city of Chicago, you can bring that sort of thing in. If you've got existing PowerPoint decks, you can combine all those items into one cohesive video really easily. And then over the last year, we've also introduced something to our recorder called Camtasia Rev, which is built into the recorder, which is a really great way for people who are still new to the video creation process to get 90% of the way done with a pretty polished looking professional video without knowing or needing to know how to use an editor. It allows you to click on different options, remove your background like you're talking about, decide on different formats and layouts of your video, pick different sizes depending on where the desired end state is going to be. If you want it on LinkedIn, if you want it on YouTube, if you want it on, or a social media reel or something like that, you can do all those sorts of things. And then if you're someone who's an experienced user, or as you said, a power user, you can still take that initial recording into the editor and just make small tweaks. Like if you want to match your branding colors, or you have an intro, outro sequence you want to use, or maybe you want to bring in some background music. Or maybe you did one continuous take and you have access to Camtasia Audiate, which is another new tool of ours where you can edit the video just based on a text transcription, where you can delete words, delete sentences, and then it will make those cuts right back inside your video. So the short answer to your question is ease of use. The long answer is most of what I said. But there's a great way to utilize Camtasia on a regular basis with Rev, where if you're doing internal share outs, or you're creating videos for clients, or you're doing, well, like you had the preempt video that you put up on YouTube to talk about our talk today. That kind of thing can be built largely in Rev by just hitting record and talking to the camera, just like we're doing right now. So I like to say it's ease of use, and then we like to say we also have so many different ways to learn the tool and to support you while you're using the tool. So, in fact, the team that I'm on at TechSmith, the customer education and customer advocacy team, that's what we do. We build all the tutorials, the written documentation, the webinars, the practice projects, all those sorts of things, and then we're tied with the fine men and women that run our support team, which are salt of the earth, wonderful people as well that help out with the little bit more technical issues that people may run into. So,
right, cool. Back to the different versions. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but my understanding is, so you used to come out with like a new version around the middle of the year each year, and then maybe not the middle of the year, but like this past June, I believe, is when 2024 came out. And I think you're moving more towards a subscription-based model where you're going to have more frequent updates. Do you want to maybe talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's true. So here at the end of this year, the idea of a perpetual license is kind of coming to an end, where if you have purchased Camtasia on a perpetual license, you own it. And we will support at least that version and a couple versions back from it. We've moved to a subscription plan service. In fact, there's 3 different tiers, and it allows us to not have to develop and hold back those big, juicy, awesome to use new features for that annual release cycle. When you're on a subscription style, or it's called SaaS software, like many others in the world, as soon as something's ready to go, we can release it to people so they can start utilizing it right away. It's a great way to have new functionality introduced into the tool and have the developers, who are all brilliant, really work on these projects and be able to get them out into people's hands sooner rather than later. So yeah, it was typically a long time ago, we were doing it annually, and then we took a couple of years between developing like Camtasia 8 to Camtasia 9. There was actually quite a gap because we were doing an incredible redesign and reconfiguring of Camtasia. And then since 2018, it's been an annual release cycle ever since then. So the next full version will be coming early 2025. And that's also part of that SaaS product as well. So you will be getting all those updates. So when people, I don't know if anybody's ever talked about what this looks like. When you look at a release number of our software, so like Camtasia 2024 dot a number dot another number. So if it's 2024.2, the dot 2 is the number of the minor release. So if we've added feature functionality, if we've made some tweaks, you're going to get that automatically in that minor release. If it's the second dot number, so if it's 2024.2.1, that dot 1 or that second dot number is a maintenance release. So if they're fixing bugs, which come up in software, we constantly are updating that, making changes. If a color is a little bit off, if a button has been misaligned, if there's new functionality for the AI engines, all those sorts of things, those come in those maintenance releases. So it used to be incredibly important to know which version you were fully on to be able to make sure we get you the right help. But with a SaaS model, you're eligible every time you open the software to have whatever the most recent version is available to you. You click on the button, it updates, you're on the same environment. So so we move from an annual cycle to you're going to get it as soon as it's ready kind of cycle, which is really exciting. There's a lot in the pipeline that I cannot wait for people to get their hands on to be able to do their creation.
Awesome. Well, let's use that to segue into whatever you're allowed to talk about. What is coming in 2025? I have to ask, I know you probably can't tell me everything that's coming, but what can you share with us? And when do you think it's going to be available?
So I am going to casually continue to glance to my other monitor. So I apologize to everyone who's watching this if I'm not directly talking to the camera, but I do have my notes on this. So one of the things we started talking about a little bit earlier this year that's going to come out in early 2025 is a completely redesigned AI background noise removal tool. It is shockingly good, in my opinion. So I was just at a conference a couple weeks ago on behalf of TechSmith, and I was doing recordings on a conference floor. So I don't know if you've ever been to a demo hall where there's like 500 vendors, everybody's trying to talk over each other. This one happened to be in Las Vegas, so there's a ton of action and loudness going on. And I recorded in my environment, which was right there in our booth. And upon the playback, without having to do any work, the background noise removal was applied automatically. You just heard me as clearly as you're hopefully hearing me right now. No background noise, just the clear mic recording. That is coming to Camtasia. It's actually also coming to our other product, Snagit, as well. It is incredible. So if you're like, I'm in a home office where I've been doing this for even before the events of 2020, right? So before that took over our world, I've honed in a really good mic, really good setting, really good sound treatment, all those sorts of things. My gosh, I can go work at a coffee house down the street and get a very similar, crisp experience. It is absolutely incredible. So that will come as part of that release. It's we have a demo video somewhere where one of the developers, Zach, who had worked on it, In fact, you can go to our website and see some of our summer event where we demoed it the first time. He's working next to a leaf blower and a dog barking and someone clicking really loud on your keyboard, and you'd never know it. Wow. It's absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing.
That's cool.
We're doing things around the cursor story. So we started introducing things around what we call the hero of the story, your cursor. If you're doing demo work, we did over the last couple of years the ability to edit a cursor path. So the recorded metadata inside of Camtasia captures where your cursor has been. You can move that around. You can reposition it. So if you are like me and you talk with your hands a lot, and when I talk with my hands, I talk with my mouse, and that tends to be a distraction all over the screen. You've already got the ability to adjust your cursor. You've got the ability to change your cursor icon, the actual visual representation on the screen. We're going to talk about adding kinetic effects to the cursor, where you can move things around where it looks like it's being pushed or pulled. We're going to do motion blurring to the cursor to give it that true actual movement, so it doesn't look so static as you're moving it around the screen. A lot around helping bring the cursor up front. So like we've probably all been in a position where you're working on something and you're like, I can't find my cursor. I've got multiple monitors going on. We'll be able to help with that as well.
Wow, that's cool. So that's really going to improve people's ability to make presentations look fantastic, presentations that they turn into videos.
Yeah, with minimal to no effort. That's the biggest part. Is I think the thing I like about these sorts of things that we do in Camtasia is they can be applied automatically, so you don't have to worry about them. But if it's not doing exactly what you want, or you want to make some sort of modification to it, you can still do that in the editor. You can make adjustments in the properties panel on the right-hand side. You can toggle things off. You can only have it active for like the first 2 minutes of your video and then not for these 3 minutes. There's all those sorts of subtle adjustments as the content creator that you have control over inside the tool. It's pretty, I like to say it's helpful. It's just, It's helpful to know that I'm not locked into one way or another way. I can take from column A and column B and introduce a little bit of column C if I'm so inclined.
Cool. What I love about Camtasia is how many different types of videos you can make. So, I mean, when I'm making my typical walk and talk video, right? I'm just recording myself. I'm recording audio separately, so I can sync them up in editing in Camtasia. A video like that, I don't typically do anything with the screen, so there's no presentation. I don't get into the cursor at all. But yet I find Camtasia to be so easy to work with for those types of videos. It's also nice to know that I can use the same product to make tutorial, how-to type videos. That's what I like about Camtasia, probably my favorite thing.
Yeah, and we do all the different kinds, right? So if you watch a tutorial on our webpage on any of our software, it was made with Camtasia. We do that. In fact, we had to learn how to record Camtasia with Camtasia. Those are tricky things on our end to be able to demo that off. So it's really kind of nuanced, but it's something you can do. So I'm just keep glancing over at the incredible number of questions that are coming in from the audience.
Why don't we get into them? If you see one that you want to answer that I don't ask, by all means, go ahead.
No, absolutely.
I've got one here from Cronus Ecor. I apologize if I say your name incorrectly. And he says, I have trouble with the background remover tool. It leaves a little blur around parts of myself, even if I use a green screen behind me. Any advice as to how to get the best results out of the background remover tool?
Yeah, so same with the background removal tool as it would be with a green screen, which you can do still in Camtasia with the color removal. Being well lit is going to be the best result. So what's interesting is I've got a DSLR camera sitting right here that's shooting me for this particular video, but I also have let's try this just for fun. Ready? I turned off my camera. I didn't mean to turn my camera off, but I could switch to my Logitech camera. Now I'm really up close, right? In fact, that's my vacuum in my living room. This is a really good camera. It's a 4K Logitech Brio, but if it's not well lit, I look a little blurry. It's a little bit, I'm getting the wiggle woggle from the monitor. There's something to be said about good cameras with good lighting. If you match good lighting, you're going to have a better result. And the more crisp the result is with good lighting, with a good camera, then your background removal tool or your green screen, your color removal tool knows what to look for, because there's a little bit more of a differentiation between you and the static background behind you. So I would encourage you to try a little bit more light. It could be something as simple as a table lamp. It could be rearranging your desk. It could be opening a curtain if you have that opportunity in your recording environment. If you're in a corporate environment and you're just getting, lights down from the ceiling, maybe a desk lamp would be just enough to help out with that.
Okay. All right. Very good. I always thought that, because I get great results from the background remover, and I always thought it had to do with the fact that I'm using a lens. So it's a Sigma 1.4, I believe it is, lens. That means my background's going to be blurry, even though it's not a very big room. And I thought maybe that had something to do with it, but I guess lighting is the most important thing.
Yeah, the camera and the lens doesn't hurt. So mine is also got a slightly bokeh background where it's slightly blurry. That's also coming from my lens as well. Yeah, it's definitely something to experiment with, but a quick sample size test you can do is changing up your lighting, and that should give you a better result. If it doesn't, you can also still take the result and make subtle tweaks in that properties panel on the side. You can change the feathering, you can change the intensity, and sometimes for that particular environment, you can make subtle adjustments in the properties panel and still get a result that you're looking for. Because I think they were saying there's probably a little bit of halo. I call it a haloing effect, where even if you're in front of a green screen, I have a bald head, so I sometimes see just an outline of green. That typically comes from that differentiation that good lighting will fix for you.
Okay, perfect. Another question here from Mountain Finance. What is your best practice for editing out dead zones or breaths as well?
Editing out breath. So there's a couple of different ways to do this. One way is if you have access to Audiate, which is you can either purchase it as a separate tool of ours, or it's included in the Camtasia Create and Pro, the two upper tier software subscription services. There is an automatic hesitation feature inside of Audiate that once it transcribes your video into text, it identifies any of your ums and ahs. It also identifies what it calls silences. My concern when we were developing this for years and years and years is whenever I'm talking into a microphone and I'm doing a video on the fly, not one where I've scripted it and I'm really formal and ready, I do a lot of, "Hi, everybody, this is Jason." It's those up breaths, right? Okay. Or, and this is kind of gross, it's the noise mouth feel kind of thing.
Yeah.
One, Audiate helps remove all of those automatically. Two, being conscious of those breaths and just focusing in on, especially if they're short videos, it's just a good practice. Getting rid of the mouth noise. Our friend Matt here at TechSmith, one of the recommendations is to eat an apple right before you do your recording, because there's something, especially a green apple. I don't know what about the green apple. It helps take all that stuff in your mouth and helps clear it out in a really clean way, and it ends up cleaning that sort of thing out. If it's something that's a dead zone or a breath that you want to control, inside of Camtasia is the playhead. It's down on the timeline. It's the triangle with the line. It's got the red and green tabs on either side. That is also called a selection tool. If you zoom far in on the timeline using the zoom control right above the timeline, it's a left to right drag. You can use that selection tool to drag over and select certain areas of your video that have those noises. You can either delete them, do a cut, like a ripple delete that'll remove that section and close it up on your timeline so there's no gap. Or if you wanted to manually, you can silence those by using right-clicking on that area and silencing them. That always was the way I did it before Audiate. Audiate allows you to remove those pauses and those hesitations, but it does a subtle little ramp so that it's not like this abrupt cut. It makes it a little bit smoother, a little bit more natural sounding. But like I said earlier, because we're not prescriptive, there's a couple of different ways you could do that. But yeah, I'd lean a little bit into that selection tool if you get a chance. Okay,
yeah, actually, that was the next question that I see here. Somebody says, and actually, before I read the question, I'll just say, like, for myself, I don't use that selection tool for like when I'm editing in Camtasia at all. If I need to like eliminate some clicking noises or whatever from my mouth or whatever, I like to right click, add audio point, right click, add audio point, and I just kind of do it manually just because I'm used to it. It's probably the long way to do it, but it's just something that I've gotten used to. Okay.
Yeah, no, it is now, and that's 100% the way I would do it as well. I would add multiple audio points, zoom way in, drop that section down. It's an incredibly manual process. It is still viable, but there are quicker ways to do it. It just depends on how much time you have and how deep you want to get into your editing experience.
Right. Okay. Well, so I'll read the question then. Logan Design says the little red and green tabs can be split. What is it? So you've already partially answered this. What is it? What's a good use for this? I'm new to editing and shortcuts. So you've already mentioned one thing.
Yeah, so that selection tool, there's a lot of different things it can be used for. It can be used for making selections that you want to delete, copy, remove, paste into other places. If you want to preview back a small section of your video while you're in the editor, if you make a selection with those red and green tabs and hit the space bar, which is a play button, Camtasia will only play what's in that selected area. So if you wanted to, you read a couple lines and you wanted to see how it timed out with motion on the screen, you could just play it back by using that selection tool and hitting the space button to play back just that singular selection. I use it also for just making real precise little cuts, trims, removals. If I make an entire video and that video is good to go for a couple weeks, and then I get new information that changes a 16-second part of my video, as the editor, as the creator, I can make a decision. Well, if this 4-minute video is still really good, except for these 16 seconds, I can go back into that project, select that area that's incorrect or out of date, delete it, record a new section, and literally plop it right into the middle. It just allows me that flexibility to not have to re-record a video, because I don't know about you guys, but I have a lot of videos to make, and revisiting old videos is a timely process, and we like to make it a little bit easier.
Very good. Awesome. And we're getting good at this. You're getting good at this. That segues into the next question that I just found here. Okay. And this is less to do with Camtasia, but just video editing in general. Ellen says, what's the best way to save footage, including B-roll, to free up space on a laptop? So do you have any guidance or ideas for Ellen?
So Ellen is probably using a laptop with a smaller hard drive, and so there's a couple ways that I like to look at this. One is, if I'm making a video, I ingest or import all of the content I think I'm going to use into Camtasia right into the media bin, and edit my video. When my video is ready to be published, if it's about done, you can right click in your media bin and choose the option that says remove unused media. So it will remove that from your project right away. At that point, I produce my video, export it as an MP4, share it to YouTube, wherever that end result is going to be, put it up on screencast.com. I then, for me, I do a file export zip project to archive it for myself because I put it away. Then that footage, I have a couple places. I have an external 4 terabyte hard drive that's sitting on my desk right now. If it's footage that I really think I'm going to need later, I'll save it to that hard drive. I have unlimited access to cloud storage, right? Google Drive, Dropbox, stuff like that. You could put those things up there. But if you want to know the true secret, Ellen, once that video is produced and that project is done, I don't care about that footage anymore. It's very rare that I'll go back to it. In fact, so I'm a big consumer of tech YouTubers. I'll invoke someone's name. Marquez Brownlee, MKBHD, one of the biggest tech channels on YouTube. The moment his team produces a video, they delete all their original footage. The only thing that matters to them is that final video, which as a YouTuber, you can download from your studio, right? You can always pull the footage back out from that. For Camtasia users, you can zip that project up, which zips it and compresses it without losing any quality, and you can put that somewhere. You can put it on an external hard drive. You can put it in a cloud storing destination. As long as you're editing all the original things that you need for that project on the laptop at that moment, you don't need to necessarily store all that content there anymore. But that's my opinion.
I just got really anxious when you said that. I haven't deleted anything ever. So I completely understand what you're saying, and I should learn from that. I guess I have a big NAS unit in my house, and I think it's
Sure.
30 some terabytes, and it's maybe half full. So at some point I'm going to have to do something. And I have it set up in a RAID so that, if a drive fails, I can replace it. I know that's not true backup, but it's what I'm doing right now. But it's interesting what you're saying, that you can delete that. And I mean, that's probably the smartest thing to do. The thing that I think about, and I think you answered the question, I can download it from my YouTube channel, but if there's B-roll that I want to use and reuse, and you know what I mean? Like B-roll that I've taken and I've used in a video, and I may want to use it in another video, I guess you could just download that from your YouTube channel and get it again that way, right?
You could, and let's be honest here. If you've got a somewhat decent sized hard drive on your laptop, most laptops, modern laptops, are going to have at least 500 gig hard drives or solid state drives, because those are cheap to be able to access. You could save some of that B-roll into if you're using Camtasia, into a folder in your library, so that you have access to it. When it comes to footage, though, things are changing in tech so often that the footage you shot from February may be out of date already. So I kind of use the closet analogy. If you've got clothes hanging in your closet that you haven't worn in a year because you think you might wear it again, you're probably not going to wear it again. Same with the footage. I just did a systematic clean out over the summer of every project from 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. I kept 2023 forward. And I kept a few select projects that were like moments in time or special to me or were nuanced. But I got rid of terabytes of content. And it's been 6-7 months and I haven't missed it. Right.
Cool. No, that's great advice. That's great advice. Sometimes you just get caught up, and I'm just used to doing it the way I do it. But at some point that it probably makes more sense to start doing some of that, just deleting rather than continually having to upgrade hard drives.
And if there are people, I know Aaron just said it too, if you've got access to external hard drives and you're really good at naming conventions so that you can easily go back and find that content, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, but you'd want to have redundancy. You've got your stuff in RAID. If it's content you think you're going to have to use again, you probably want multiple copies of those hard drives, and you probably want them, one at your house, one at somebody else's house. Like, how important is that footage? Is it archival? Right. Is it just because? It's totally up to the content creator at that point.
Right. Good advice. I've got a question here from Tyson Larson. Says, are there Cyber Monday discounts?
For TechSmith, I will admit, I just got back from vacation myself. I believe we are running, so this is Cyber Week. We're running 25% off of all of the Camtasia levels of licensure, the Snagit bundle, screencast. I don't see anything on here that's not, although there might be a few things. These are for single user licenses, but we're running 25% off throughout this week. So this is a pretty good time. If you go to techsmith.com and you're looking to purchase, I believe it gets automatically added to your cart right away. So you don't have to enter a code or look for some special link. No, it's just in there, ready to go. So it's a good time if you're looking to upgrade, if you're looking to add 25% off. Yep.
Perfect. And kind of along those lines, is there a one-time purchase? Men's Dating Hub asked and says, I'm not fond of subscription-based video editors. Is there a one-time purchase? I think you said you're moving towards subscription, but is the one-time purchase still?
That's a great question. So I believe we are... right now you have the subscription plans available to you. I believe through the end of this year, you can still buy a perpetual license.
Okay.
But that time when either the time window is closing or has closed. I apologize. My entire life of TechSmith is not usually around the sales side. It's around
Right.
the education and learning side. So,
Sure.
but I believe that is true for those single licensures. So, although I completely understand, I was against subscriptions in my life until I went and looked at the software I use on a daily basis. Like 95% of it's subscription based. Everything from music streaming service to TV streaming services. So the advantage is you will have access to the newest, latest, and greatest supported software at all times. Yeah. Versus once it's on your computer, we'll support it for a little while, but then if your OS goes out of date or if something happens, we'll do our best, but there are caveats and limitations to that. So plus with the way things are changing with AI and the constant additions that we're making on those fronts, if you're using Camtasia on a regular basis, it would be worth considering. Plus, you have access to a bunch of other tools depending on the plan. You get access to Audiate as soon as you open up the Camtasia Create plan, or if you want access to the Screencast Pro or a lot of other cool things that are coming very, 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 very soon.
I'm excited. I can't wait. You mentioned AI. So that's a big buzzword that's been going around for the last, I guess, 2 years or so, year and a half. How do you see AI changing this, and what are you guys doing at TechSmith to kind of embrace this? Or are there certain parts of AI that you're using, certain parts that you don't see using? What can you tell us about that?
AI is incredibly important from a creation standpoint, right? From the creation process. In Camtasia right now, anything that involves background removal, that background noise removal, that is a form of AI. My brain, when you think of AI, it was something like write a prompt, get content back, almost like a super nuanced internet search, right? Anything that's going to make your life a little bit easier, not replace, but make it easier is what AI is going to help with. So inside of Camtasia, you've got that background removal. Inside of Audiate, the ability to find those ums and ahs, that's all AI generated. The introduction that's coming soon of the ability to create videos with avatars, with people with digital avatars. Right. We announced that back in June. That's coming very, very soon with the pro level of Camtasia and Audiate together. I tend to use AI even for prompt-based things to get myself out of a writer's block if I need to get started on something. Even Camtasia Rev is a little bit AI, right? It gets you to a certain point. I still have control over whether or not that gets submitted or published or produced. I can still use the starting points of those and make it my own and make it nuanced. I think it's important as far as getting people to an end state, but not at the end, right? So it's kind of like a cooking subscription, where if you buy some of these prepackaged or recipe-driven tools and they send you everything, you still need to put everything together. But the thought of what you didn't have to go search for the recipe. You didn't have to go do the shopping. It was like a little bit of a lift was done for you. That's the way I look at AI. It's a little bit helpful to get you going, but it's not replacing you. Someone's still got to cut up those vegetables. Someone's still got to open up the oven. Someone's still got to do all those sorts of things. So in Camtasia land or Snagit or TechSmith, someone's still got to generate the video. Someone's still got to be the authority. Someone's got to be the subject matter expert, and someone's got to be able to create content that's helpful, engaging, eatable, all those sorts of things.
Right. Awesome. No, that's great. I personally use ChatGPT a lot for I'll usually come up with a title for a video, but then I'll type into ChatGPT. I'll say, I'm making a video on this. This is the title I'm thinking about using. Can you give me 5 alternatives that might be better for click-through rate? I love it for stuff like that.
I do too. The alternative takes, the descriptions for webinars, like this is the angle I'm going for. And 90% of what ChatGPT gives me or any of those services is like, but sometimes there's a little nugget in there. Or sometimes there's the way something is worded, because I'm terrible at typing. I'm better at speaking, I think. So it's better if I get something to get me part of the way through to get me to that end state. Cool.
Awesome. Question here from Dan Frankel. When will the browser-based version of Camtasia come out so we can use Camtasia on our iPad Pro M4? Or will there ever be another version of Camtasia specifically for the Apple iPads?
To my knowledge, there's not going to be something developed specifically for the iPad. That's based on knowledge that I have. I don't think we're going to be developing anytime soon for something like that. The browser-based Camtasia. Stay tuned.
Okay. Good answer. I like that. Moving on to the next one.
Stay very tuned.
Stay very tuned. All right.
Stay very tuned.
Stan Lubeck says, what is Jason? What are you most excited about for the future of Camtasia?
Oh, that's a great question. I'll use generic terminology, generic situations. There are a lot of brilliant people at TechSmith, a lot, and they're all skilled in various different things, right? I believe I'm good at teaching. I believe I'm good at creating webinar learning experiences and teaching in a more casual, effective way. Camtasia has allowed people that are generally considered self-selecting themselves as not video editors or not video creators to spend a little bit of time, and by a little bit of time, maybe a day or two in total with Camtasia, and now are creating these incredible internal video share outs for our own company that are just like, I look at it and go, geez, I should probably up my video game. And I've got access to every tool we have on the planet inside of TechSmith. So our HR representatives, who are incredibly knowledgeable people, never would have considered themselves video creators. They are now using the Camtasia we have now and versions that are coming out to create these incredible helpful videos. Like we just did open enrollment here in the United States, right? Where we get to select our healthcare and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. The videos that they created were so well done, so easy to follow. I completed my entire process for open enrollment in like 5 minutes. And in years past, it was a couple of hours of figuring out forms. And they're like, no, just click here or do this. If you have any questions, do this. And it's all high quality. The audio is high quality. And it's all thanks to what Camtasia has become. It has taken a task that was typically suited for a small subset of people, the video creation or video editor world, and made it so much more accessible. And the best part is, as a video creator, you get to decide the level of quality. You get to decide when a video is done or ready to be shared with the world. It's just an powerful part of what we're trying to accomplish, which is making video, which is a crucial part of our world, easily accessible, easily creatable, and repeatable through our software. So that's what I'm most excited about. Awesome.
Thank you. That's great. Another question here, and actually this brings up a question from me. I'm a Mac user now. A year and a half ago, I was PC, and I was PC forever. So when I switched and put Camtasia on my Mac, I noticed there's a few little differences. It's like it's a slightly different program for Mac as it is for Windows. So having said that, I'm going to read this question from Robert. It says, I love the zoom and pan tool in Microsoft Windows. So I believe he means the Windows version of Camtasia. I got used to using it. I switched to Mac, and while you can do zoom and pan, it's without that same tool. Are there any future updates for Mac?
So Mac is being developed at the same rate of speed in conjunction with Windows. That there are a couple of nuanced differences between the platforms. That's a glaring one. There is a zoom and pan functionality in the Mac version of Camtasia. It is in the edit menu, I believe, the drop-down menu. It doesn't have the same visual interface, but it's similar where you can drag things around. So I was a Mac user when I came to TechSmith. I then converted to becoming a primary Windows user, and now I split time because I teach in both and I work in both.
Okay.
There is, how do I want to best say this? If you are a Camtasia user and you become a custom and really skilled at using the custom animation that's available on both platforms, you can do all of those pre-built things. You can do all the zooms, all the pans, any of the animations you could think of in the world are all based on that custom animation. So if you apply an animation to your timeline and you get that animation arrow that's there, once you understand how to use that, you even walk away from traditional zoom and pan. Although I will admit the Windows interface for zoom and pan is pretty nice. It's pretty simple to click and drag. So while there is that functionality on the Mac side, it's not exactly the same. So I hear you, and I will casually write that down in case I talk to a developer in like an hour, which I will.
It's funny you say that, and actually, further to Rob's question, I used Camtasia for many years on Windows. I never used the zoom and pan feature. I always did my zooms and pans with the custom animation. That's what I got used to. So when I moved to the Mac, that was not one of the things that I noticed as a difference. I was still able to do it the same way. So I guess it kind of speaks to the fact that there's more than one way to do things in Camtasia.
Yeah, absolutely. I just learned a new way to cut pineapple yesterday, and I've been doing it one way for the past 20 plus years of my life. And I will never go back to those other ways once I learned how to do this one way.
Is that where you roll it and you kind of loosen it up and you can pluck it out from the...
No, I've tried that. I think that's some trickery. I don't think that's an actual...
I've never tried it. I've seen it. I've seen it in videos.
I've seen it and I was like, I think it has to be the most perfect conditions. That's hilarious, though. I have seen that, and I'm like, that would be amazing, but I don't think that's true.
I know we've only got a few minutes left. Let me just, I think I'm almost at the bottom of the questions, but here's another one. As a 73-year-old beginner, this is from Monica Stevens, as a 73-year-old beginner at YouTube content, what do you recommend for all the terminology so I can learn this and not get lost in the conversation? So kind of a general question, but do you have any advice for Monica?
So if Monica, if you're talking about terminology inside of Camtasia versus terminology about video editing in general, if you're able to give us any kind of clarification in your question, some of it's just exposure, right? Mm-hmm. If you're in a tool like, let's say, Camtasia, the way we developed it so that you can utilize it, there's a couple of different ways, like we said, to do everything. If you are a visual person, the tools are all located on the left-hand side of the panel, and then on the right-hand side of the editor, you have all those capabilities. There is the contextual menu, which means anytime you right-click your mouse, there's a menu of options that come up there. There's also the file, edit, all those sorts of drop-down menus from the top. The reason I'm talking about those three things is if you are just exposing yourself to those sorts of items, you'll get familiar with the terminology there. If you're a traditional learner, we do have the certification program. You could walk through the top to bottom in Camtasia certification. It's certification.techsmith.com. You can attend any one of our Getting Started webinars where we do things from like a 30,000 foot view. Some of that just comes with time. If it's terminology you just not quite understanding, ask. Go to the support team at TechSmith. We'll do it. Ask it here. If there's some term that you're just not fully understanding what it means, ask. For the most part, the community around video editors is there to teach. Think about Rob, when you started on YouTube, where did you go to learn how to do YouTube? Probably on YouTube, right? That environment is there. As far as product specific terminology, most of the things in Camtasia are universally named to match up with other video editors if you have familiarity with those. But if you're ever stuck on something, absolutely ask. There are millions of people out there, including myself, who would love to help answer that. If you're on any of the socials, I am most active now on LinkedIn. So if you're ever on LinkedIn or happen to use that, I'll do my best. And my ultimate caveat is if I don't know the answer, there's probably a good chance I know someone who does.
Awesome. I like that. I subscribe to that methodology as well. First thing I say usually is, I'm not an expert, but this is what I know. I was just about to wrap this up, but another question came in, which I think is a good one. Pixel Pusher says, is there a way to sync audio other than manually? Secondly, is there going to be a rough trim feature to edit media pieces before adding to the timeline? So I guess, sorry, 2 questions there.
Is there a way to sync audio other than manually? So if you're recording separate audio from your video, which we do when we create our tutorials, I'll record something in Audiate on its own, then I'll bring it in for those, what I call those evergreen videos that are going to live on for a long time. Most of my videos are, I hit record, I talk to you, I show you something, and we're done. We don't get that deep into it. There's no automatic way of doing that because once again, Camtasia is not prescriptive. We're not going to guess at where you meant to say that sort of stuff. So as far as that, I record the entire stream of consciousness in Audiate, make my edits in Audiate to make sure my audio sounds good, bring the audio back over by syncing it to Camtasia, and then I just put it on my timeline if I'm doing it in conjunction with other content or a screen recording, and then I just split up my audio and just drag it into place. It's kind of like a puzzle, but it allows you to do that timing on your own. So there's no automatically way of doing it. Manually is still, in my opinion, the better way to do it because you get control over it. The last one is rough trim feature to edit media pieces before adding it to the timeline. There's nothing planned that I'm aware of, but that's what a video editor is really good at. If you can add that single piece in, you can trim the edges really quick without affecting anything on the rest of your timeline. So you can trim it down to fit exactly what you want. I've never had someone ask me that. So 1, that's a really great question. 2, I'd love to know the circumstances around that, what you might be stuck with. So I believe if you tag me in the chat here, it'll still stay on when Rob publishes this later on as well. So we can still engage throughout this video.
Perfect. And actually, yes, I think we should wrap it up there because we're getting a little short on time. If anybody has any other questions after we sign off here, they can ask them in the questions below. And if you tag Jason, he'll get it as well. And we'll get you the answers as soon as we can. But Jason, thank you very much. This has been awesome, real treat. And I hope everybody here enjoyed and learned something from Jason. Any final words as to anything we didn't talk about that maybe you wanted to talk about Camtasia?
Oh, happy to be here. Thanks for the opportunity. The small plug, techsmith.com/webinars. Getting ready to do one here in just a second. They are free. You can attend them live. You can watch the recordings afterwards. We have tons of them coming up and a gigantic library of learning that's free and available on the website as it stands on Camtasia and everything else that TechSmith offers. So techsmith.com/webinars.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Jason. And everybody, this will be published as a podcast later on tonight. And then you can also join me tomorrow for the regular weekly live stream where I typically answer your questions about Camtasia. All right. Thanks again, Jason. And thanks everybody for joining. And we'll see you in another episode. All right, guys. Bye.